What could be better than a tour of Cave of the Mounds?
A blacklight tour at Cave of the Mounds.
Cave of the Mounds continues to come up with new ways to enjoy their cave. The blacklight tour offers a unique experience.
Well, welcome in. My name's Ellie and I'm going to be your tour guide for this blacklight tour. Before we head in, just a few quick but super important rules to go over. Now, first and most importantly is not to touch any of the rock walls or formations down here. The room behind me is actually the one exception room. So if you want to touch, get all your touchies out in the room behind me. Also, be sure to pick up a black light. They'll be on a cart. I'll grab a few extras in case anybody's goes dull or anything like that. Just let me know. Alrighty, let's head on in, guys. Awesome. It's your one spot to get all your touches out. I still touch them because I think they're fun. And right here are the black lights, so be sure to grab one. And then just click the button and make sure they turn on and they're working. That way you can grab a new one. Hold out. Alrighty, everyone. Now with the black lights, they're pretty high-powered UV lights, so we do just ask that you do your best to keep them out of your eyes and anybody else's. Hurts worse than the sun, trust me. And right here where we're standing right now is actually where the cave was first discovered. Now, the cave was discovered on August 4th, 1939, and they were down here mining for limestone rock. Now, limestone rock is this kind of brownish rock that you see all around us right now. They ended up deciding to do a quarry blast. They took dynamite, they shoved that dynamite into the ground, and then they would blow that ground up simply to loosen that limestone. On that day, they ended up uncovering 2 small holes in the ground, and they had absolutely no clue where they lay. So they came down about 3 hours later to start exploring the cave with only flashlights and ropes. Now, today we are actually going to be going through the cave in kind of a similar path that our first explorers took. If you look right above us where all these wood planks are, this is actually where the first explorers first entered into our cave. Alright guys, we're going to head down the stairs behind me. Some of the formations we're going to see are stalactites. Those are the ones you're going to see hanging tight to the ceiling. As well as we have stalagmites. Those are the ones that might grow to the ceiling one day and are growing from the ground up. So see if you can see any of those. Also, you guys might get some drips of water on you. They're called cave kisses and are super lucky. So try to get as many cave kisses as you can. Who's ready to head into the cave? Oh yeah, perfect.
Oh, wow.
This one looks like a baby face. It's freaking me out. Look at it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Awesome, everyone. Right now we're walking along what's called our Onyx Ridge. The Onyx Ridge is home to actually some of the largest stalagmites in our cave. The tallest one appears to be about 17 feet tall. Also, if you guys shine your black lights up at the ceiling, you'll notice kind of this line of formation that's going all the way across. Now, this is actually a crack that's called a fissure line, and the fissure line runs throughout the entirety of the cave. Not only does it bring in all the water or cave kisses, it brings in the minerals that allow us to form these formations. And about 1 to 2 million years ago, when our cave was first forming, it would have brought in an acid that's called carbonic acid. Now, you may have heard of it before. It's what you would find in any bubbly or fizzy drink. And that just came down and ate away all of the limestone rock that you see around us and opened up our cave in order to let it start forming. So the fissure line was extremely vital for our cave's formation. Awesome, guys. We're going to continue to walk into our south cave.
Yeah, right early on, there's a staircase that went up. Oh, awesome. That's cool. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's so much.
All right, everyone. So welcome on into our south cave. Now, to give you kind of an idea of where we're standing right now, If you were in the parking lot, you'd see a tree stump, and on top is an informational sign. That's about where we are in the cave, so in the parking lot area. Now, South Cave actually has one of the largest fossils in the entire cave system, so I would like to show you it, and it's actually right up here on our ceiling. Kind of looks like a really big speed bump or carrot up there in the ceiling. It's about 6 feet long up there. Now, this is actually the fossil of an ancient creature that we call a cephalopod. Now, cephalopods, they would have lived about 400 to 500 million years ago. So that was before dinosaurs were even around. And they would have lived in a warm, shallow sea that they call the Orvician Sea. Now, to give you kind of an idea of what a cephalopod would look like, they would kind of look like a really big squid, except for one key difference. And that difference is they would actually be wearing a party hat or like a really big seashell on their head. And that's what this fossil is of that's right up here. This one, it's estimated it would have been about 12 feet long when it was alive. So pretty crazy. It would definitely have been quite big. Also in this area, right next to me, this whole stalagmite clump is actually the oldest cave formation that's been dated in the whole entire Midwest. Now, it is about 257,560 years old. This is give or take about 2.1 kiloyears. And we know this because we had a bunch of geologists that came out from the UW-Madison. They used a form of radiometric dating known as uranium-thorium dating, and they were able to date this guy as well as a few other formations in our cave. Also, if you look in this area behind me, you'll notice that it kind of looks a little strange. There's a bunch of just piled up rocks and not a ton of glowing. Now, this is actually because this is a site of a collapse. Now, a collapse is a sinkhole except for the fact that they actually happen underneath the ground. Now, after the ground collapsed, they ended up just deciding to stack up all these rocks. But there's one more thing that's kind of cool. If you look right up in the top-hand corner, you'll notice this kind of hole that goes back. It's actually a tunnel, and it tunnels back about 70 feet. And they did this simply to make sure that there was no more cave. Now, all they found was a bunch of little pockets, so nothing really much. That's why we don't take you guys back there. We're going to make our way into the meanders. Now, if you're any taller than me, you may have to watch your head. The ceiling gets a little low at some points.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you look up here, you can kind of see a light shining. That actually is where we were walking on the path up there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Down here, you can kind of see this greenish glowing pool, and that's actually a pool of water. The water pools down there because it's one of the lowest points in our cave, so it acts kind of as a drainage point.
I just took a cave kiss right to the forehead.
Let's go talk. So down there is what we call the meanders. Now, the meanders is kind of special for two reasons. First up, it's actually one of the deepest points in our cave. At the deepest, it gets to be about 70 feet below the surface. So super deep. On average, we're only about 30 to 40 feet. So quite a bit lower down. Also, it's the one spot in our cave that was carved out through mechanical erosion. Now, that's basically just a big fancy term to mean at some point there was a bunch of flowing water down there. And that's what carved out all the unique twists and turns. Now, a little bit about your blacklight. You may have noticed, I like to call it cave glitter, but it's all of this like blue, linty, and colorful stuff. This is actually just lint from our clothing. So this is not naturally produced by the cave, but we get a lot of questions about it. So if you want to believe that it's cave glitter, you definitely can. Feel free. Also, you may notice that you're seeing a lot of purples and greens. Now that purple color is actually what's coming out of your blacklight. They put a dye in there, that way you know where you're shining them, since it can be kind of harmful if shining like people's eyes and stuff like that. So they don't want you to accidentally do that. And then that green stuff is the rocks that are actually glowing themselves. Now, it takes a pretty specific mineral ratio. It needs it to be about 98% of the mineral calcite and about 2% of the mineral manganese in order for rocks to glow. We're going to head into North Cave. It's actually the largest room in the entire cave system. There's a lot more cave glitter over here. Go for it. Shine your lights all in this little room. Why do these rocks glow? I like to describe it as, it's kind of like if you were to give your kid, or you yourself were to eat an entire bag of Halloween candy, you were probably gonna bounce off the walls. Now, it's pretty similar, but instead of bouncing off the walls, these rocks are getting so much energy that they're glowing this green color. Now also, like I said, North Cave, it's the largest room of our cave system. And there's actually kind of a special fun reason for this, and it has to do with the fissure line like what we saw at the beginning. Now if you look up on the ceiling, this is actually the fissure line we've been following so far all the way through our tour. But right about here it actually curves and meets up with a different fissure line that's going back this way, and it actually ends up going all the way back into this little room over here. So now instead of one crack, there's two. For a limestone cave of our size, this would be pretty rare. That's why it's actually thought that at one point there was two caves down here. Now very slowly, these caves would have collided together and formed one super large cave system, which is kind of why North Cave's so big. It was the meeting point of two caves. Also, another reason why we kind of have this theory is the half we were just in is slightly older, and this half is slightly newer. Now, take that with a grain of salt because caves are still extremely old. All of the formations you're seeing, they actually take an incredibly long time to form. They grow about 1 centimeter, or the size of a mini marshmallow, every 100 years. So definitely quite a bit of time to form these guys. Now, if we all want to shine our lights back into this little room here, there's two kind of cool formations. First one is up in the corner. It kind of looks like big tree roots coming down. That up there is called cave bacon. Now, it's also known as ribbon stalactites, but that's a little less fun. So, cave bacon's up in the corner. It kind of forms, it's like if you were to wash your hands, but you didn't dry them, and the water ran all the way down to your elbow, it would not follow a straight line. It's exactly what happens up there. The cave bacon follows the path of least resistance, and that's how it gets all of its fun waves. Now also, if you notice what's coming down the rocks over here, there's a bunch of this green glowing stuff. Now, this is what we call flowstone, and flowstone is all over our cave. It's on the ground, it's on the walls, it's on the ceiling, and it's what you see that's glowing a lot. Now, flowstone looks pretty smooth, kind of like a slide you want to slide down. However, I can tell you that it's actually super rough, kind of like a big cat tongue or sandpaper, so definitely not the most fun to slide down. Last little thing in this room is actually a cave friend that we have. So cave friends are not actually real animals and they're not fossils, but it really looks like an animal. So right up here we have our cave snake. Here's his head, his tongue, and he's actually eating the cave bacon if you look really close. And then his body actually wraps all the way around the northern half of our cave, back into this little den over there. We're going to keep going up this way in our north cave. At this spot, I always like to kind of point out what our first explorers would have had to go through. Now, in this area, it doesn't look like anything too crazy, but if you do take a look over here as you walk by, there is about a 30-foot drop where I'm standing. So definitely shine your blacklight down there. You can see how far down it goes. And the first explorers would be down here without lights. So definitely kind of scary. They would just have their headlamps that were on their head and a few ropes while they were exploring the cave. Now, would any of you, maybe at some point in your life, like to be first-time cave explorers? Maybe? I can tell you I'm a little bit too nervous for that. Not knowing where I'm going does not sound fun. Alrighty. So the cave kind of goes in a figure 8 loop. We did the first half of the figure 8. Now we're going to be doing the second half, and the second half is my favorite for blacklight. So get ready, you guys. As we go up the stairs, just stick to the left-hand side. There is kind of a little bit of a rock that sticks out. Won't anybody bonk their head? Awesome. Let's have enough, guys.
That's sick. This is awesome. Look at this.
Awesome, everyone. We're in our painted waterfall room right now. And this room is honestly super gorgeous with the lights on. So I'm going to turn the lights on here for a second. Here we go. Yeah, so this formation is what we call our painted waterfall. The reason that you didn't see too much glowing on it is because it's covered in all different minerals from our cave. There's the 3 main minerals in our cave on it. And the first one is iron oxide. That's all of that orangish color, and that mineral does not glow. So that's why your blacklights didn't show up too well. We also have a bunch of that white, which is the calcite, which is what you do see glowing, as well as that kind of purplish gray color, which is my personal favorite mineral. Its name is manganese, and if it helps you, it rhymes with mac and cheese. So remember that that's manganese mac and cheese up there. Also, another reason why I like to turn the lights on in here is there's actually the one living animal in our cave in these pools of water. So they live throughout the entire cave in all the pools, and they're about the size of a grain of salt or speck of dust. So they're quite small. They're the color white, and they're called a springtail. So take a peek, see if you can see any of them. I know there were a bunch earlier today hanging out in that corner closer to the waterfall. Now, my kind of favorite fact about springtails is they actually don't have any eyes, because caves are naturally complete and totally dark, so they don't really need their eyes down here. And last little thing that I'm going to show you guys with the lights on is what we call cave coral. So cave coral is this burnt broccoli looking stuff that you actually see all the way around the pool. And cave coral is super cool because it actually acts kind of like real coral would. It's not alive, but it does need to be fully submerged underneath the water in order to grow. That tells us that at one point this reflection pool right here was at least the height of that cave coral. Right now the cave coral is dormant, but if this water level was to ever rise again, it would continue to grow, so kind of cool. Awesome, guys, I'm going to turn these lights back on. Off, I mean. And then if everybody wants to shine their black lights up, you guys may notice that there's kind of a dome right here. Now, this dome was caused by what we call sulfuric acid. That bubbled up and caused the dome. I promise, there's no longer sulfuric acid down here. It would smell pretty bad. Also, you may notice all around it, there's a few more ribbons of cave bacon, as well as a bunch of little baby stalactites. Now, these baby stalactites actually kind of get a fun special name, and they're called soda straws. Now, soda straws get their name because if you were to actually break one off, it would be completely hollow on the inside, just like a straw you'd use to drink out of. In fact, that's one of the key differences between stalagmites, which aren't hollow, and stalactites, which are. Perfect. And also, did anybody get to spot those springtails? Did you guys see them? No? Well, if you do want to shine your black light on this sign, there is a zoomed in picture of one right in this corner. So if you're really curious to what they would look like, that's what they look like. We're going to keep going towards our cathedral room. Right here's kind of the cool black light spot. It's a broken off stalagmite. This area gets its name the Cathedral Room, and it gets its name for actually 2 reasons. First up, when the founder would bring his daughter down here for the first time, she wrote in her diary how she thought that all of the stalactite clusters that you see up here looked like one big giant chandelier. As well as the stalactite cluster that you see over here, it looked like a big giant pipe organ. Kind of went with that idea and rolled with it, and we actually decided to host weddings down here. So, get your marriage off to a rock solid start in a cave. Oh yeah. I know, bad cave jokes, they keep on coming. You may notice that some of the stalactites are broken off. Now, this was actually not done by humans. Our cave is a closed cave system, so that means the only access point is through those gift shop doors or the crack in the ceiling. No humans were down here before we were, and we found our cave like this. This means we can only have theories to what happened, and we think that a big rush of water came through, most likely from the melting glaciers in the surrounding areas, and those caused the tips to just break right off of these guys. Now, there's actually another cool thing that we're going to be doing with our black lights here. So I'm going to have everybody shine them onto this area right here. And on the count of 3, we're all going to turn them off, and we're going to watch the afterglow. It's called phosphorescence. Here in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, cool.
We'll do it again in 3, 2, 1.
Whoa.
And if you guys have a more high-powered blacklight too, like mine, you can actually write stuff. So, like, I could make a little heart and then turn it off and it would stay in the shape that you make. Yeah. But yeah, you can draw little things. And you can do them a little bit with yours too. Yeah. Awesome, everyone. Now, I have another cave friend that I want everybody to say hi to. And her name is Polly the Parrot, and she is right up here. Now, Polly actually sits on a broken off stalactite that used to be on the ceiling. This is kind of another reason why we think there was water. We think that water would have just slowly, gently rotated this formation and set it down on its side. Anything else, we kind of think it would shatter. But back to Polly. She's our little parrot friend that sits right on top, and here's her head, her body, and then her tail feathers go all the way down. So be sure you guys say hi to Polly as we go through. And you'll also notice if you look up, there's a ton of new stalactite growth. So all of these little baby soda straws, those are new growth that came after the breaking off of these formations. Awesome, everyone. The next little section we're going to be heading into, it's called the Narrows. Now, as its name suggests, it does get pretty narrow going through there. As we go through, be sure to be on the lookout. I like to call it our stalactite graveyard. There's a ton of broken off stalactites on the ground. All right, we're going to head on in, guys.
That was terrible.
Yeah, don't make it weird.
That's so weird. This is my favorite part.
Yeah, let's take it.
So excited, we're doing it again.
There's a bunch more springtails actually on this little pool. If you look, there are all those little white specks on top. Do you see them?
Yeah, that one's like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a bunch of them, just all the little white specks. They really do just look like grains of salt.
That's
That's a really good piece of phosphorus.
Awesome, guys. We're in our island room right now. It gets its name because of the little island in the middle. Also in this room, I'd like to point out to you guys a formation that I haven't shown yet, and it's what we call a column. There's one really big one on the back wall, as well as one really big one in this room. Now, columns happen either when a stalagmite is going to grow all the way up and it's going to touch the ceiling, a stalactite's going to go all the way down and it's going to touch the ground, or they're going to meet right in the middle. So I just pointed out to you guys two really big columns, but in our cave, there's ones of all different sizes. In fact, the smallest one I personally know of is only about the width of a pencil, so definitely can be much smaller, yeah. Awesome, guys. In just a second here, we're going to make our way towards the beauty rooms. Now, the beauty rooms are actually kind of special. They're part of a man-made tunnel system that we ended up carving out. Right here by this big giant column, this is actually where the cave naturally curves off. So we are going to be heading into this tunnel now. I'm actually just going to let this group pass us, that way we're not trying to pass two groups in the dark. So feel free to keep looking around with your black lights. Do you guys want to hear a joke while we wait?
Yes.
Oh yeah. What did they call the spiders that were newly married? Newlywebs. Oh, it was a good one. Kind of a cool thing that you wouldn't know, but red hair actually glows green under a black light. Never know, but if you have red hair, give it a try. Your hair's gonna glow green. Yeah. Alrighty, here we go. Awesome. So you guys have officially entered into our little man-made tunnel. And what I didn't mention is that this is actually completely hand-carved. They didn't want to use dynamite so close to the cave, so they ended up spending over a decade down here only using hand drills carving this area out simply so we could see the rest of the cave. Now, if you don't believe me or you want to see a fun surprise in the wall, there's actually a little drill bit up here that they ended up leaving. Yeah, so this is the guy that they left as they were carving through. Now, that left us with actually two rooms that you're able to look into. On this side, we have our gem room. Try to find the formation that kind of looks like big pieces of corn on the cob. The two in the middle. Those formations are actually quite rare. They're called beehive stalagmites, and nobody knows why they form like that or how they do it. So if you find the ones that look like corn on the cob, those are them. And then the other room is called the Centennial room. This little room gets its name simply because it opened in 1948, which was 100 years after Wisconsin became a state. Now there's a bunch of what we call shelf stone in there. It's basically like ice except rocks. The shellstone is actually pretty cool. It takes a really long time to form because a bunch of loose rocks or mud has to be there for a long time in order for it really to build up that thick crust, and then that mud gets washed away, so it just leaves the crust behind. Guys, ready to make our way into the Dream River area? Perfect. We're actually going to be doing what we call total darkness in here, so that's pretty cool. We'll be fading into total darkness in 3, 2, 1. Awesome, everyone. We're now in total darkness. Feel free. Wave your hand in front of your face, make a silly face at your neighbor. You're not going to be able to see anything. Now, you can actually only experience total darkness in 2 places in the world, either at the bottom of the sea or inside of a cave. It's actually said that if you spend about 30 minutes down here, you'll start to have auditory and visual hallucinations. Now, don't worry, we're actually only going to be down here for 29. No, but really, those just kind of entail you'll start to make up where the walls are. Your brain will start seeing images, but there's actually nothing to see. It's also said if you spend a few months down in a cave in total darkness, you'll actually start to lose your vision completely. Your brain will tell your eyes that they're no longer needed and they'll just start to shut them off. Last chance to make your super silly face before I turn this light back on in 3, 2, 1. As we explore through this section, first is Surprise Cave. That's that little cave that's right over there. Surprise Cave was actually found as they were carving along this tunnel. It's a completely separate cave system from Cave of the Mounds. Its only relationship is by the tunnel. It actually is classified as a separate cave. Surprise Cave actually used to be called Smurf Cave. It had little Smurf figurines in there, but they were pretty gross after being in there for quite a few years, so the Smurfs had to go. They're also not the most natural thing to see in a national natural landmark, but you know. Also back here, we got Diamond, Stalagmite, and Tate. And then be sure to look into Dream River. That goes about 250 feet back all the way to the end of the cave. And if you take a peek up, you're going to see Eiffel Dome. So might get an eye full of water. If you want more cave kisses, head on back there.
Yeah, I'm now covered in cave kisses with all of them.
You know, you're just going to be extra lucky out of the party, right? Yeah. This band looks really cool with the black light too. You can see all the layers of rocks inside of there.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah. They like to call this little guy our alligator pit. He actually goes quite a far ways back. Goes about 20 to 50 feet. All the way back there. Yeah. All right, are you guys ready to start heading out this way towards the beauty rooms? Perfect. Awesome, everyone. Just the last little new spot on our tour. We're in High Tunnel right now. And the kind of cool thing about High Tunnel is it's a perfect example of why you should measure twice before you cut anything. As they were going through here, they ended up cutting about 9 feet too high off the ground. They didn't realize their mistake until they were all the way to the back of this tunnel on this side, when they had to come all the way back through and carve it out. Definitely a big pain. You guys may have noticed that in the middle there is some wood, and this wood is actually connecting to a mine shaft. Now, this is a mine shaft that is now sealed off, but it used to be used to lug out all the limestone rock from their carving projects. We're gonna make our way out of High Tunnel towards the exit, but as we go, shine your light on the wall as we exit, because you might see a word. It says witch. If you look right up there, you see the W. There's the witch. Yeah. Yup.
Whoa.
Cave's leaving secret messages now, I know. Oh my gosh, your nails look really cool under there. Now those really glow green.
Yeah.
What color are they? Are they green with that?
They're like teal kind of.
Oh yeah, awesome. Now as we head up these stairs, we were actually already in this area. This is the area with the painted waterfall. Just stick to the right hand side. Awesome, everyone. Well, this is actually the end of our blacklight tour. Thanks so much for coming out. I truly hope you had a lovely time. I know I did. These are my favorite tours to give because they're just so cool. Now, as we head up, you guys are going to see your pictures on the wall. If you want them, great. They're $10.54. If not, you can just leave them on the wall and I'll take care of those for you. Also, if you really liked the tour, great. My name's Ellie. And if you didn't, just forget what I just said. And now my name is Abby. So Just so you all know, thank you so much for coming out. There's going to be a cart for you to put your black lights on as you leave. Awesome, everyone. Last staircase, it's the longest one. I know they get you at the end.
Thank you, Ellie, for imparting your knowledge of the cave. Be sure to check out this unique experience.